I don't know what all you wrestling fans are going on about. I'm the greatest manager of all time. Oh, no, you're not, Jimmy. Oh, no, you're not. Hola, amigos. It's Will here from Will's Custom Figures, coming at you today with a breakdown of the one, the only, the legendary Mr. Fuji. So please, guys, sit back and relax while I took you through why and how I made this guy and everything else in between. So first things first, as you can see, he comes sporting his flag, sorry, and I'm so happy with how that turned out. Just piddling around with that, sorry, on camera. I should have probably done that before I started the video, but I'm going to give you guys a little bit of a spin with it now. Here we go. Look how that's turned out. I'm so happy with this final finished product. And how can you have a wrestling collection? Hasbro, what is going on back in the day with the WWF Hasbro line to not have the Hall of Famer, the one that only Mr. Fuji in your collection? I guess there was a lot of wrestlers back in the Hasbro days that were missing from that collection, and it is my job, I've seen it as my duty, to get them back in the collection, to get them into people's sets. And Mr. Fuji is in high regard. This must have been the 5th Mr. Fuji I've worked on over the years, maybe 6th. But I'm very happy with this one. This is possibly one of the best ones that I've ever worked on. Now, just an interesting fact here, guys, before I bring in some other figures for a bit of a size comparison. I don't know, that's probably what you're looking forward to seeing. Look at that. So this flag is actually made just out of some old material. I don't know if it's a t-shirt or some old clothes or whatever, but painted the red spot on there then. And this here is one of my old paint brushes. So you can see usually the brush would come out here. I've cut that, glued it, and then threaded the material on from the seam I've done the stitching, and cut the other end so it's a perfect rectangle. I'm just so pleased with how that's turned out. It's probably the best flag I've actually done for a Mr. Fuji. Say cheese, Fuji. No! Say cheese! Okay. Here we go. School photo time. So, getting up close and personal with Mr. Fuji. Hopefully you like this nice snapshot here. Now, this has actually all been made from clay. Many moons ago, someone sent me a head cast of Mr. Fuji, and I only had this stuffed plastimate, which I've used many times, and I managed to get a cast of the front of the head, but not the rest. So everything else, the ears, the rest of the head, the neck, has all been completely hand sculpted by myself, and thank God I got this nice little cast of the evil one, the manager of the Powers of Pain and everything else. God, who else could have had such a crazy team like, you know, Warlord, Barbarian, and of course we had Ming and Barbarian later on in WCW. And this guy stretched so many different promotions. Not many people realise that Fuji was actually a wrestler himself, and of course he come to prominence and a huge superstardom as the manager in WWF in his glory years. I remember so many times seeing him coming down to the ring, and whether he had his bowler hat and he was managing he was managing those guys, or whether or not he was managing Yokozuna. There's so many great names over the years that Mr. Fuji has crossed paths with. Now, just to give you guys a little bit of an insight, I'm going to zoom out. This is a Samu base. So you have, I'm pretty sure it's Samu. Whichever one is in this position, I'm pretty sure it's Samu. And yeah, I'm really happy with how it's turned out. I'm trying to think, what's Samu's partner called? Samu and is it Fatu? Either way, I know one of them was Rikishi. Now, I'm really happy with the detail on here. You can see if I zoom in on his face, like the amount of time and effort that's went into just trying to get those lips a slightly different colour, trying to get the eyes a slightly different colour. The hair isn't quite black. It's sort of like a brownish black. All the little details in there, and I've painted probably 4 or 5 different versions of this Mr. Fuji just to try and get him as absolutely perfect as I could get him. Now, I use a Citadel paint, KSF Flesh, and I also use leather brown when painting this skin colour. Now, the design on the outfit, you can see the whole outfit has been sculpted by clay. So I've used clay to come down here. So he actually has the sleeves that drop down a bit. They look like they've been dropped with gravity, hopefully. That was the idea. And then, of course, you have the 2 bits of his belt coming round where he's fastened it around his waist. Now, again, like a rolling pin, like Jimmy Mouth from the South, you've probably seen previously. getting the material rolled like a rolling pin with the clay, and then folding it and cutting off the excess and blending it in is absolutely key when you're working on a figure like this. And you can see actually up right into the original Hasbro figure underneath the feet, which I like. Loving the feet. They're the original Hasbro ones, again painted with the same method as before. Now, if I go into, just before I sort of bring the video to a close, this design looks quite complex, but in essence it isn't. It's time consuming, but not complex. You just have to do cross hatches. Every single line from diagonally from up here down to the left. And I do that over the whole figure, including the arms. Then just go the opposite way, from left to right. Once you've done that, he has this weird sort of like, if you look at the design, this larger void white space here in the middle is kind of like many different layered square or diamond sort of shape. But all I do is where each X meets, I draw this sort of like mini octagon rectangle. And if I do that on every single time where the crosses cross over, it comes out with this design. And as you can see, looking at the front and the back, it is painstaking, and there is seams and things, like if you can see underneath the armpit there. Also, there's a seam at the top here. It's never going to be perfect, but material isn't perfect, and it stretches and it shrinks. But I am so happy with how this has turned out. Now, we spoke earlier about WCW, and just to bring in some other WCW alumni, recently been on my YouTube and my Instagram and Facebook, and as well as my eBay. We have, of course, none other than Virgil NWO, and we also have Juventud Guerrera. So I hope you guys like them. And you've seen a little bit of him at the beginning, but manager to manager, I'd have loved to have seen that scrap. Here we go. Here is the one, the only Jimmy Mouth from the South with accessories and all. And guys, next is Gorilla Monsoon. Stay tuned. He is coming on the next video. Some from myself, from the Mouth, from the South. God, that is not easy to say. And from Mr. Fuji, waving his flag. God, what a dastardly villain. Was there anybody more evil than Fuji? Let's just do a face-off between these two. I've got to put it up as well. Oh, man, look at that. That is a fight for the ages. I will see you guys on the next one. Instagram, Facebook, YouTube. Give me a follow. Subscribe if you like this video. And I'll see you on the next one. Adios.